know that AI and AI-enabled machines can significantly improve our experience and help us in our day-to-day lives. It is my honor to introduce to you a gentleman who will tell us about the future of virtual assistants. Please welcome from Samsung Bixby and VIX Labs, Adam Cheyer.
Thank you. Hello, pioneers. I'm going to be talking about the evolution of assistants, and in some ways, this conference has been my personal evolution. When I came here at the first Pioneers in 2012, I had just launched Siri at Apple. I was the co-founder of Siri, and I spoke to you about entrepreneurship. And the energy you gave me back at that time fired me up. I went home, started a new company called VIV Labs. And 3 years ago, I came here on stage at Pioneers to do the first public reveal in Europe of our technology. Thank you. And shortly after that, I guess someone was watching, we ended up being acquired by Samsung, the world's largest device manufacturer. So here today is the next step in my story on digital assistants, where we will now have a product that you will be able to download at the end of this session and try building new capabilities into an assistant that will be on 1 billion devices in a few years. So let's give a quick recap. One thing I've noticed over time is that every 10 years, a new interface paradigm emerges. 80s, PC and Windows, and the mouse. In the 90s, we had the web, hyperlinks, URLs. 10 years later, the smartphone and apps. And I don't know if anyone's been counting, but last year was the 10th anniversary of the App Store. So we think something new is coming. It is time for a new way for interaction for every industry and every consumer. And I'm biased, but of course I think this will be the personal assistant. Now, some may say, why do I need another interaction paradigm? I've got smartphones and the web. Well, believe it or not, there are moments in life when pulling out your smartphone and finding an app or bringing up a web browser is not appropriate. If you're running with your smartwatch, if you're driving in your car, I hope you're not fiddling with that app or web browser in your Tesla. If you're in your kitchen washing the dishes or dealing with your family, web browsers and apps are not appropriate. But an assistant who knows you, who can do things for you, fits all of these contexts and many more. Some might say, well, don't we already have the intelligent assistant? Alexa has 80,000 skills, can do all sorts of things. Google Assistant is in our home. Siri has been on 1.5 billion devices. Well, that's pretty good, but take it from me, an assistant is useful, but not important. If I said I'm taking away your web browser and your smartphone, you'd be like, I couldn't live. But if I said I'm taking away your assistant, you'd be like, that's inconvenient. So why isn't it that the current crop of assistants are not important at the level of the web or mobile? At VIV Labs, we thought 4 reasons. Number 1, you need to have one assistant. Today, when you deal with other assistants, it's like speaking to 80,000 different assistants. You have to say, ask assistant, I want to talk to this service to do this command. It's too much to remember. I want one assistant who knows me. I want to be able to access that assistant across every device. Again, it's too much for my little brain to say, what did I tell the car assistant, and what does the watch assistant know, and the TV assistant? I just want one assistant. A device is a context. Third, today, most of the utility in an assistant is the ones that come baked in from a particular big company who's made it. Those 80,000 skills have almost no usage. Why? It's not done in a democratic way. If you're a third party, in the assistant world, you're really a second-class citizen. You get a different set of tools, a different user experience than the engineers at an Amazon or a Google who are building the built-in skills and services. So we want to change that. And finally, I need an assistant that's personalized just for me. Today, the assistants that you get are the same for every single user in this room. So we built, building on Viv technology, we are now coming out with a new Bixby. Samsung had an initial Bixby that was not powered by Viv. Let me give you just a taste.
Welcome to the new Bixby. Bixby is an assistant that can help you get things done based upon services. These services are extendable and configurable using a marketplace. Let's look up some information using Bixby. Will it be warmer than 60 degrees near the Golden Gate Bridge the day after tomorrow? Great, I've got some great weather information. Find me a pasta recipe with shrimp and asparagus for 4 people. And I can see my recipe, the ingredients here, and preparation steps. That looks great. Bixby can also be used to accomplish tasks such as making reservations, buying tickets, booking a ride, and more. Find a French restaurant in San Francisco. And Bixby has highlighted certain picks based upon what is learned about my preferences. If you want to see more results, you can simply scroll down. But you know, instead of French, I feel like Italian. Make a reservation for 2 people at an Italian restaurant instead. And I can see several Italian restaurants.
So I can continue, but you get the idea. It's a conversational experience. You can refine your queries. It has a rich palette of interface components. And so language and graphics are used together. And what's important is all of those experiences can be built by your companies, by your developers. So Samsung initially put Bixby, the new Bixby, on just the Note 9, but this year it is rolling out to a gazillion devices. Samsung today has 1 billion devices in the market. More than 70% of US households have at least one Samsung device, and the majority of those have multiple. And in this year, Samsung has announced that this will come out on all of the new and some of the backported smartphones, on television sets, on refrigerators, on speakers, and you can imagine many more devices that Samsung is doing. They've committed that every Samsung device by next year will be connected, and they're getting behind Bixby as their single intelligent interface. So the good news is that you yourself can now do experiences like what you just saw and offer them in a marketplace, much like what an app was done in mobile. And to do that, in November, we launched something called the Bixby Developer Studio. I'm going to say a few words about that, but this is not just your standard IDE. We are changing not only how assistants are developed, but I believe this will change how all software is built. So think about it. For decades, software and humans, the relationship was human says, computer, do these steps, and the computer executes it. Very human-driven. Phase 2 was AI, where you have things like neural networks, where now it's the human's job to give examples. Here's the input and the output. Machine learning builds a model, as we just saw in a recent talk, but the human really doesn't even understand all of those numbers or how it works. And what we're introducing with Bixby Developer Studio is a new cooperation between human and AI. The developer does what he or she does best, and an AI will write the program for all use cases that you want to build. right? It's a completely new way of building software, and I'm going to give you a demonstration of that now. So first, you go to bixbydevelopers.com, bixby.developer.samsung.com. You can download the IDE. This is the website that you get to. It's called Bixby Developer Center. It's got all the documentation, tutorials, videos. And let's switch to my laptop, and I'm going to try a live demo to show you what it's like. Wonderful. So here we have Bixby Developer Studio. I'm now going to show you a preview of something that's not yet out. It's never been shown anywhere, so this is a world first. We're building into Bixby a new wizard that will let you build templates and make coding much, much easier. Looks like this today. It will change when it comes out launched. But the first is you choose out of a number of different templates what kind of thing you want to build. This will be a search experience. And you can load data from a CSV file or a table. Here I have a spreadsheet with a list with 3 different tables: a list of flights, a list of airports and their names and the cities, a list of airport carriers. So 3 separate tables. So I'm going to load that Excel spreadsheet. You can see it's imported the data. Great. And now the wizard has auto-detected the types of those columns. It knows which ones are money, which ones are dates, which ones are vocabulary names. And you can go through and actually say, well, this from field, if I'm searching for a flight, I require that there be an input from and an input to. So you set a few properties. And just like that, you'll generate, let me choose an output folder. Here, you hit a generate button, and it will now build the initial capsule. We call it, it's not apps, we have a capsule. So let me open the capsule that I've just loaded. Now a capsule is the data model. So it will have things like the carrier code and carrier name that we just imported from the spreadsheet. It has the user experience and dialogue, and it's generated some of those as well, layouts. And now we're going to build use cases. So let's think of one. What do I want to do? I want to find flights. So you express it in natural language, in English or German or any of the languages. Find flights on United from France to SFO. And what you need to do is just tell it, what are you trying to get to? What do I want as my goal? I want a list of flights. And you tell it the inputs that you have. United, it's a carrier name. That's one of the types from my spreadsheet. France, I'm going to just say it's a search term, a geographic search term of some sort. And I'm going to add the role that this is the from location. And SFO, it's a airport code. And I'll add a role that it's the to location. So that's it. Pretty simple. I hit save, and this is the magic moment. At this instant, Bixby has actually generated a complex program that does all of the steps required to make this happen. Both user interactions, integration, so it's calling services to look up the code from the Find Airports table and sending that into the flights with the right dates, etc. You can compile your model and bring up an emulator. I'm just going to run it here in the simulator. And you can see, I say find flights on United from France to SFO. It says which United? United Arab Emirates or United Airlines? And the system will automatically learn. If users click on, every time they say United, they mean United Airlines, it will stop asking the question automatically. Now it's saying, well, there's actually 2 airports in France. Let me try Charles de Gaulle. And here it's retrieved the flight from my spreadsheet. The tool is rich. It has a complex debugger. And all of the code that you see executed in this piece, you can step through, you can see the dialogues, you can change the results. All of this was generated for you. So that's an example of the new Bixby Developer Studio. It's a new scalable way to build assistant technology. And you will have a marketplace coming this summer where you can now start publishing your capabilities. So if you just switch over to the slides, I will close and say, if you'd like to learn more, we're having a special hands-on workshop today at 4 o'clock, so just in an hour or so from now. It's downstairs in the treasury room, which is all the way back in a corner. But if you have any business questions about how your business could use this technology or technical questions, we'll be available to assist you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam. I have so many questions for you here. Let's step down here. So first of all, I'm completely inspired by your story. It wasn't that impressive. I want another round of applause, just in terms of what he did. He himself was at this inflection point, and he came here and derived so much inspiration from Pioneer. So please, round of applause.
Yeah,
so impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All of the entrepreneurs in the audience can completely relate to that, so appreciate you sharing that. And also, how many of us can say creator of Siri on our business cards? I mean, unbelievable. So, Adam, can I blame you now when my 7-year-old screams throughout the house, Siri, find mom's keys?
I used to say that, when the iPad came out, people would, you'd have 2-year-olds walking up to a TV and swiping and saying, this doesn't work. And I say, if I do my job properly, that 2-year-old will walk up to the TV and say, turn on, and then be mad if that doesn't work. So coming soon.
That's excellent. All right. So quickly before we jump into the questions, I heard that there is a Samsung Bixby workshop. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, so we have some people from developer relations here in Europe. It'll be downstairs at 4 p.m. in the treasury room, and we will have swag and prizes, and you can actually download the IDE, build your first capsule, and kind of do a bunch of challenges.
Awesome. Okay. So we're going to do it a little bit differently in terms of these Slido questions, which keep coming in, by the way. You have so many amazing questions. But Pioneer has been relatively benign, nothing's going on. So stop sleeping, Pioneer. I want you to participate here. Can you lead our Q&A? At least provide one question for us.
Yes, sure I can. Dear Adam, when I try to communicate with Siri, most of the time Siri does not really understand me. Why is that?
I'm sorry, Pioneer, but usually I'd expect assistants to communicate very well to each other. I'll try to hook you up later. So, yeah.
Okay, all right.
No, but on a serious note, when computers like me start to program ourselves, isn't there a need for a lot more fail-safe for the future for humans?
I think humans still have a very important role. Humans know about structure and functionality and capability. What AI does really well is it knows how to combine all of the structure into use cases. Assistants today might be able to say something like, where does my sister live? Oh, that's a contact request. What's the weather in Boston? But today's assistants can't do, what's the weather where my sister lives? And most people are like, I thought this was AI, knows part one, knows part two, why can't I combine them? Well, it's because human programmers can't write every rule. What's the weather where my sister lives? What's the weather at the Super Bowl? What's the weather tomorrow? So we're using AI to let the AI do all the hard work of handling every possible use case, while the humans create the structure and the goals.
Helpful explanation, Adam. Thank you. All right. So again, lots of questions coming in. Manuel asked, how is Bixby from Samsung different to Apple's Siri or Google Assistant or Amazon's Alexa, where also skills can be developed?
Right. So today's assistants, if you look at usage, 95% or more is the built-in skills. What's the weather? Play a song, send a message. Only very little usage is actually being handled by third parties, even if there are tens of thousands of skills out there. What Bixby's doing is trying to flip that game. We're not about building the world's best assistant. We're about enabling the world to build the best assistant. So I'll be happy if 95% of the usage goes to services built by others, by third parties. Today, that's not the case, and we're trying to open up an ecosystem, give the most sophisticated tools available to the developers, and let them compete equally with any built-in service that comes from Samsung.
Next question. When software starts to reproduce itself, isn't there a necessity for a lot more fail-safe securities and control? And who controls?
Well, I actually think, so certainly security is important. I actually think it's a much more secure system if you have a very structured, limited set of things that a program can write, as opposed to a human developer. If you open up to third parties and someone wants to write, what's the weather where my sister lives, I'm not sure I trust this unknown human to have access to where my sister lives, my contacts, things of that sort. But if Bixby's AI is writing that joining code, we can have guarantees that private information will not flow in the wrong way, that certain safety properties are preserved, and that really allows, in my view, a much safer ecosystem and joining than if we just let any unknown human party who may or may not be good to do the control of the system.
Excellent, Adam. All right, last question. Who will work in the future and earn money for buying these assistants if they take so much workload off your back?
I think that's a good question. Hopefully, there will be the next jobs to do. Technology is always replacing some human jobs. It's not an AI thing, it's a technology thing. Computers actually used to be a job. Humans, people who would be calculating and computing as a job. So yes, assistants should make our lives better and easier, but we will go off and do more things with all of our free time, perhaps.
Right, the future of work.
Yes,
I love it.
right.
All right, let's thank Adam.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.